I am a retired CEO of UCare. I was at UCare for 20 years. And I'm here because my husband was a Vietnam veteran who died 12 years ago on May 26th of Agent Orange-related effects. He died of lymphoma. And so that's my story. He was an engineer. He was a very smart, funny, opinionated engineer. He was drafted. Neither of us were really any supporters of the war, but he felt a sense of duty and a sense of, at that time, he actually had two younger brothers and felt somehow in his mind that if he went, somehow his brothers wouldn't have to. And the truth was, that's the way it worked out. So he was behind the scenes. So he was Army Signal Corps, or I'm not even sure, stationed for most of the war in Benoit, which is fairly near to Saigon. And the biggest danger he ever came to was some rockets, aimed at the base that he was at. So he came home and we thought that the war was behind him. He was very happy to be home and be done with that. Never really suffered any effects like some of the veterans until he got sick in spring of 2002. He was diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia, which he had no symptoms for 3 years, and in 2005 he developed symptoms. He was treated for the chronic lymphocytic leukemia, but it transformed into lymphoma, and that transformation is pretty much a death sentence. The average life expectancy is about 9 months, and he lived about 8. It was a tough road to hoe. And while he was sick and was, trying to get veterans benefits and working with the VA, I did some work on the internet and found out that when Bob was stationed in Benoit, there were 4 major spills of Agent Orange into the groundwater, which was never acknowledged by the Defense Department until about 2004 or 5. So it was pretty clear that he had bathed Agent Orange, and the lymphoma that he died from was the first condition that was found by the National Science Institute, I think, to be connected to Agent Orange. So he was determined by the VA to have died of a service-related disability. He got back disability pay, because it took a long time for the VA to process, as I think has been true for a lot of the veterans. And we received about $40,000 in back pay while he was having treatment, but before he died. And so I searched online and we found the War Legacies Project. And so the two of us agreed that we would take that $40,000 and start a fund that would be used for Vietnamese families continuing to suffer the effects of Agent Orange, especially children. And what we have subsequently learned is that the effects of Agent Orange in Vietnam are ongoing, and they are, there's some theory that there have been some genetic mutations that grandchildren even are being born with some of these tremendous deformities in a country, of course, that doesn't have, very, very many resources to deal with them. So this was part of what Bob knew about and wanted to do. And so after he died, we asked any contributions to go to his fund. And then I receive about $1,300 a month from the VA as the survivor of someone who died of a war-related disability. And so I take that money also, and I really like the idea of taking money that I get from the government and putting it back to the people who our government harmed. And really, the U.S. government has not done a very good job in any way of trying to deal with the effects of Agent Orange in Vietnam. They've done some cleanup in Da Nang, and they're starting to clean up Bien Hoa, but pretty much that's it. So the fund has grown. People hear about it. Couples have asked that their wedding gifts go into the fund. I think a few young women for their birthdays had money put into the fund. So, extremely gratifying for us. Yes, my daughter and I went back several years ago with Susan Hammond, who's the woman who administers the fund for us, through the Red Cross of Vietnam. So the Red Cross is really kind of in every district, and they choose the families. So it's a very one-on-one, kind of fund. It's not that we have about $300,000 have gone into the fund and out of it, and about that has helped over 450 families. So, and what the fund does is it tries to pay. We don't worry so much about, can you prove this child's deformity was directly linked to Agent Orange? The deformities that these families, that these children have, are clearly not anything you see in the United States. But what the fund tries to do is give the family funds that can help sustain the family. So a big part of what the fund does is buys cows, because cows can keep a family out of poverty, because the cows give milk, the cows have calves, and those calves can be sold. And so some of the families, Susan has told us, are on their second or third generation of what they call Feldman cows. So there are Feldman cows all over Vietnam, which I really love that idea. The fund will pay to send families children who don't have disabilities to school, so they can support the family when their parents can no longer support. We've paid for bicycles. We've paid for internet connections. Two brothers, incredibly deformed, who we met when we were in Vietnam, really sharp young men in their early 20s, and the fund bought them a big flat screen TV and internet connection, and now they tutor other children in the village, and so have a way to take care of themselves. One of the things struck me so strongly when we were there was the way the mothers, especially, almost every time you would meet with the family, the mothers would be touching those children or taking care of them with very little support and very little government support. So the little bit that the fund can give can make a huge difference. So we were very fortunate to go there and to meet many of the families. Yeah. What I always respond to when people ask about that is that we can't change what happened, and that dwelling on that is not helpful, but that this we can do, and it's a great source of comfort. And also, I think that people-to-people connection is a really important part of what the fund is able to do. So we'll keep doing it as long as we can. I think it's the tribute that Bob wanted. And given the funny, smart guy that he was, that this is something that would be very special to him. And so we're happy to be able to do it and keep doing it.